Okay, hi, it's Paul Green with another one of our Focus On panels where we bring together people that I think are leading experts in their field to discuss a particular topic that I think may be of interest to our audience, which is targeted at small business owners. So today we're going to be looking at, should small business owners undertake personal development? So who knows where that will take us? We will find out in due course. So before we crack on, if we just go around the panel so they can introduce themselves, let you know who they are and why they're also lovely at what they do. Julie, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you. So hello, everybody. I'm Julie Futcher and my business is The Sales Ace. And what I do is I work with business owners within the SME marketplace to help skyrocket the revenue within their business. So it's improving their sales. That's through training and consultancy work. So that's me.
Thank you, Julie. Serena.
Hello, so I'm Serena Mann. I'm the creator of Breakthrough Public Speaking. So I help business owners speak with confidence, clarity, and impact on camera, whether that's for a video, webinar, online training, or even a virtual keynote speech.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mark.
So hi, I'm Mark Exley from Gravitas HR Solutions. We provide HR services to the local SME population. And in particular, that can be any aspect of people management, including, in my case, a lot of employee engagement and reward work.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So anybody that's watching this live or on a replay, feel free to put questions in the comments wherever you're looking at this, and we will get to them either live or after the session. So who shall I pick on first to kick this off then? So, Julie, why didn't I pick on you? Because you're smiling at me, so it looks like you're winning. Oh. So what are your thoughts on personal development and small business? Should they? Do they? What gets in the way? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm a big believer in personal development, whether you run a small business or whether you're working for, a large corporate. It's through personal development and learning that you can hone your skills and become more successful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a sales trainer. My mantra is every day is a school day. And when I'm delivering training and I'm standing in sort of workshops with employees, you'd be surprised what I learn out of it as well. So I think personal development is good. Without personal development, I wouldn't have grown my businesses, because you learn and develop as you go along. So it's a big fat yes from me.
We've all of a sudden gone into the X factor. Now let's go to the Xly factor. Xly factor. What are your thoughts on personal development within small businesses?
Well, I think Julie stole one of my catchphrases there, that every day is a school day. And despite the fact that I've been doing this kind of work pretty much for the last 35 years or so, I honestly think that you can always learn something from every situation. But on top of that, I think business owners will stagnate if they don't actually do some personal development, because potentially you hear a lot of new business owners saying, oh, well, I'm not a salesperson, or I'm not really a finance person. But the fact is, you've got to be all of those things to be successful in business. So you have to learn to do those things, and that's different ways of learning. Obviously, you could do formal training like Julie provides, or you could just do your own research and shadow and work with other people. And just another mantra of mine is keep asking questions. So you keep asking questions of people who do know, and you build your own knowledge. So yeah, it's definitely a yes from me as well.
Okay, let's see. We might get the golden buzzer from Serena then. Serena, what are your thoughts?
And we've got 3 yeses. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a winner for me, for sure. And personal development has played a really important role in my own life. And I think it's important for everyone. I think it would be worrying the day you say, I just know everything, nothing more to learn, nothing more to develop. I think that would be worrying. So it's about thinking about what you want to develop as well. I mean, everyone will be different. Personally, I really value, for instance, skills to do with self-awareness. I've been meditating for many years, and I feel that's a really important part of my self-development, my personal development. And that, of course, relates to how I work and how I run my business. It helps me with my confidence. It helps me manage my mental health. It helps me feel more relaxed, all kinds of things. And this naturally affects your business, affects the way you work, affects how you relate to people. And so I think it's important to be a whole person in your business. You don't want to just sort of run your business, but inside you're crumbling and you're not developing yourself or not supporting yourself as well. So I think it's a key factor for anyone running a business, whether that's for your own well-being or for particular skills that you want to develop. And whatever that is, in my area, of course, is presentation skills. And so that's, for me, a really important area to develop. But that's one area. And I think there are so many different skills that you can develop. And it's about thinking, what is best to do at any given time. Sometimes you want to focus on one skill more than others, but I think it's always good to have something that you're developing, something that you're focusing on, and knowing that you're developing yourself as an individual, because this is the foundation for you to run your business from.
Agreed.
Yeah, because I guess with the small business owners that I come across, I guess it's I know it's 50-50 or whatever, but there's two sides, I guess. There's some people that are too busy, focused, doing the day-to-day stuff on their business. Some could say firefighting, struggling to survive, whatever it might be. So they don't find time to do training or to do the thing. And there's other people that do set off a certain amount of time to develop their skills over time. What's been your experience with your customers, people you've come across, Julie?
I think I've got customers. Well, let's start. My brain is running quicker than my mouth can keep up with. So firstly, when customers come to me, they're normally the types of people that are ones who are investing in personal development, whether it's for them or whether they're investing in personal development for their employees. But I do have conversations with small business owners that struggle to find the time and to be able to afford this, because in their mind, personal development can be very expensive. Now, I want to sort of just mention both of those. Taking the time, I always advocate putting a bit of time in your diary when you step out of your business and work on your business and not in your business, because particularly sort of from a sales point of view, sales planning point of view, it helps you sort of see the goals, helicopter view of the business, etc. And personal development is the same thing. By doing that within my business, I've increased my knowledge. But also the other thing that it did for me was highlight where my weaknesses are and me to make a decision as to whether I learn that or outsource it. And that really helped me with the time element. I think from a sort of a costing point of view, there are plenty of places that are offering free workshops. There's being a member of the business community, for example. There are a number of workshops that I've been involved in delivering. I think Serena has done. I don't know about you, Mark, whether you've done one yet. But there's elements that can be delivered free of charge. There's BIPC, the British Libraries. They're running free workshops for business owners. So there's lots of places that you can go. It doesn't have to cost a fortune.
It's just knowing about those different outlets.
Absolutely.
What's been your experience, Serena, with people you come across? Do you find that, given the nature of your business, that they are open and willing to get support, or do you find that some people just don't invest time or money in personal development?
Sure, the people who come to me definitely are people who absolutely want to invest in themselves. Because they wouldn't approach me if they didn't. They know this is something important they want to do in their, let's say, confidence and presentation skills. And it's a priority for them. And I can see it. You just know. You can see it in someone when you're talking to them, and they can see, I really value this. And because I value this skill, I want to invest in myself. And those are the types of people who approach me for sure. I think those who just feel they don't have time wouldn't ever look for the type of coach that I am, for instance. They just would feel I'm just not going to do that. But I think at some point, business owners do feel it's this is time for me to invest in myself and whatever skill they want to train in, because they at some point I think you do see the importance. You realize, okay, well, this is having an effect on my business. In fact, this will really help. If it's a skill that I can learn, it can help me with my business, then this is something that I want to do. So I think definitely the people that I work with certainly feel that this is a really valuable investment for them, so that they can develop this a particular skill with regard to their confidence and presentation skills.
And Mark, in your in the HR sector, I guess you're coming across obviously business owners and employees. What's been your experience of how much or little clients invest in their own development as well as their staff?
Well, many of our clients have already made that decision to outsource to us the management of the people management issues. So as a result of that, they're already sort of on that journey. And quite often we find that they do outsource a lot of non-periphery, a lot of the periphery non-core activities, so they can focus on what they do for a living. I come across a lot of business owners who are avid readers of management books, and they're always kind of looking for something new and something. And we probably all know that most management concepts are rehashes and rebranding of what has gone before. But at the same time, it's all reinforcement of good practice and ideas. And I find a lot of business owners are willing to look beyond the obvious and try to engage with materials that are available to them, like books, like other business owners with peer-to-peer learning, and they're wanting to understand how to do things better. But we do also come across business owners who are so focused on what they're doing that everything else just gets left. And unfortunately, that can only go so far. So their response to being busy is to just work harder, not smarter. And a lot of those kind of situations are where you're showing a bit of a skills gap there. That time for reflection's never there because I was too busy to reflect and work out a better way of doing things. So you just get busier and busier until you fall over.
Reflection is so important. It's so important. I think for me, sort of reflection time, I find is, walking the dog, getting, in the day-to-day world. It's funny what flips through my brain. And if I've got an issue that I need to think over, getting out into countryside, down by the beach, etc., and really mulling things over really helps. It's just so important. As you say, Mark, people that don't do that end up being busy fools, don't they?
Definitely. They're really good points, both of those points, actually. I think it's a danger sign to you in one sense in your business if you are finding yourself constantly just too busy for anything, that you don't have time to step back from things. Because we kind of know deep down that that's us being very stressed and we're just not going to be making the best decisions. Yet it's so hard in the moment to see that and to step back. But I think if we just have this ingrained within us that when we're in that place, we really do need to step back so that we can have that space, so that we're not too busy. And as Julie said, have that time for reflection as well, because that's when you're most creative. That's when you start to see solutions. That's when the solutions come, when you're not overwhelmed, you have clarity and your mind is a bit more clear. So really good practice to have that reflection, taking time out and never being too busy within your business.
On your business journey, Serena, to where you are today, what would you say has helped you out in terms of the personal development aspects that you've used?
So I've used lots of different types of personal development. For me, it's always been so essential. I've always wanted to improve my skills and develop my skills. So I've, for instance, let's say with my meditation practice, this is something that I feel is a very core part of my life. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and it creates everything positive for me within my life and my business because I have a solid foundation, if you like. So this has been a really important step for me with that meditation. But then also it's about putting things into practice. So becoming a confident speaker for me was about learning this skill. Practicing in front of people, getting feedback from people. This was hugely beneficial because I think whenever you want to develop something, there are different things you can do. If it's with something within your own mind, your inner work, that's something you can just do within your head. But then if there are other skills, you actually need feedback and you need some support. So I've had mentors and coaches and so on in different areas because different mentors, different coaches offer different things, of course, different specialist fields. And this has been hugely important for me as well to have that. So I think I've always been open to different forms of personal development, and I really, really value it. But for me, it's mainly been the inner work that I've done through my meditation and that I apply to everything I do in my business, and then developing myself as a speaker as well. And then other skills that I've learned along the way. You know, you learn different ways of developing good habits, for instance. You know, you can read some good books or this kind of thing, or go to a good workshop about planning or developing good habits. So you pick up all kinds of different things. But I'm always on the lookout for things to help. So that I think Mark mentioned this term work, you know, smarter, not harder. And that's really important for me, because the last thing you want is to be, you know, burnt out and overworking in your business, because at that point you can't really give to others. And for me, it's important that I'm always in a, you know, a solid place, so that I can be my best for others when I'm coaching or when I'm giving. That's important. So that's why this personal development is important to me. I'd hate to think, you know, you can't really give your best to others if you're feeling stressed, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're worried about time, for instance. And I would never want to be like that. So that's why I feel it's such a priority for me to make sure I always feel pretty balanced, and I'm getting that time for reflection, and I'm not overworking, and I am focusing on that personal development. So really, it's a huge a range of different skills to do with my personal well-being and also my business.
Thanks. And Mark, what about on your journey? What have you found beneficial for you?
Well, I came from quite a heavy corporate background, albeit I have been doing this for 16 years now as an independent consultant. But in my corporate background, I'd had a lot of management development work. So I've benefited hugely from everything from finance kind of for non-financial managers right through to persuading and influencing skills. And I think there's a lot there. I probably took it for granted until I suddenly didn't have that support mechanism. And then I started probably to use some of those skills a bit more because I had to. And I see that amongst other business owners. I see business owners who've come out of very much an operational kind of scenario, who've possibly not had any of that development, and they need it. And they're playing catch up now at a time when they're probably very busy. So it's a difficult one. But I've learned a lot over the last, I would say I've learned more over the last 16 years of running a business than I learned in the previous 25 years of being in corporate, because you have to work in a more agile way, because you've not got that support structure around you. And I think the key thing that I've learned is about communication. There's sort of 2 C's of management, as I call it, is communication and clarity of communication. And that's such a deal breaker for many businesses, where business owners are just too busy to think clearly. So the communication is fuzzy, and it's certainly not, there's certainly no clarity there. And I think sometimes that's that time for reflection. How am I going to communicate this? And for every action, there's a who needs to know question in your head. Who needs to know what I'm doing? But you only learn those things through experience, but also by challenging yourself to think, how can I do things better? Because, you know, we know there are a lot of egos around in business, and people who do think that they are the best at what they do, so whatever they say is going to be correct. The reality is, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they just disappear down an ever-decreasing circle somewhere, because they don't actually think things through, because they've got a preconception that whatever they say is right. So it's all about reflection. It's all about, for me, it's about reflection, and also thinking sometimes if something doesn't go well, why didn't it go well? And how can I do it better next time? And it's just that constant striving to improve yourself isn't just about formal learning, although that obviously informs it, but it's also about thinking about real life situations. I've always referred to that as a critical incident process, where something goes wrong, you analyze it, how can I do it better? And then you improve each time. It's like a step-by-step guide to personal development and improvement.
Look forward to the book coming out, Mark. Julie, what about you? What have you found useful on your journey?
Well, I'm a bit like Mark. I came out of with recruitment, worked for some corporate businesses. So throughout my years in recruitment, I'd had some very good sales/recruitment training, which when I set up the business, I pulled on a lot of that from the past and had used it to train people as you know, when I've been in recruitment. So that was helpful. What I found, I suppose, with personal development with me, there's the side that from a sales point of view, you'll see some books behind me. These are books that I've used, refer to when I'm putting together workshops, when I'm researching things, when I'm digging in and finding different answers, understanding different points of view within a sales cycle. I think, Mark, you kind of mentioned something earlier. You know, books are just rehashed ideas. And where sales is concerned, there's lots of different techniques, but they all fundamentally break down to some elements. So that has been very helpful with the work I do. I've developed some really bespoke workshops away from my core subject. So researching those has led me down into a lot of reading online and articles. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's been really interesting, some of the things that I've found out, you know, understood as that's gone on, which is helping me in my role. I think then from running my own business point of view, there's the learning that came from some formal workshops like marketing ones. I think these were through BuzzCom. I've done a number of them, business planning. Yeah, all of these sorts of things have really sort of helped my working life. In my personal life, well, it's a little bit like subjects. If I'm interested in a subject, I will research it. And I'll read up about it. One of my favorite things to do is if I hear of words or subjects on the television, I'll Google them and learn them. So I like a lot of historical dramas and things like that. So I'll Google and read whether what I'm watching is actually the actual truth about the history or whether it's not. So I like to try and keep my mind active. And again, I think the older I get, that's going to be more important. Because, you know, keep your brain active just sort of helps with your health as well, doesn't it? Your mental health. So yeah.
What Serena, what if any do you think are the dangers of business owners not doing any type of personal development?
I think there can be the danger of feeling very overwhelmed because you're trying to do it all yourself and you're not looking for, let's say, solutions actually. Because I think when you develop those skills, when you pursue personal development, you're empowered because you have new skills, you have new ways of looking at things. So therefore you have new solutions. So I think you could end up being very stuck if you don't have this sort of mindset of wanting to learn all the time and wanting to develop. I think it's about being open to different ways of thinking. You know, I love it when I've actually proved wrong on something. You know, if someone shows me a better way of doing something, or I realize, oh, wow, yeah, I was wrong about this, or this is a better way to do it, to do it. And that makes me feel great because I think it's fantastic. I've just learned something new. You know, rather than being stuck in your ways, you can have this very fixed way of thinking. And I think that's a danger because then you can be doing the same things over and over and again, and they're just not working. And then you're wondering why they're not working.
It's that phrase, isn't it? If you've always do what you've always done, you always get the same results. And I think, if you don't sort of look at business development, you're just in this kind of like treadmill, aren't you? Round and round and round and round, and wondering why things aren't changing. Personal development gives you a different aspect on life, a different view on things, a different way of changing to get different results. So yeah, I agree very much with you on that, Serena.
Absolutely. It can also be a way of managing stress. You know, I think when you're running your own business, you do need ways of managing stress so that you feel balanced. From, you know, we can't feel balanced all the time, of course. We are all human, we have our good days and bad days, but just, you know, as much as possible to be able to manage that, I think is really crucial for every business owner.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, one of the things that I have seen that has probably disturbed me is where you get business owners who feel that because it's their business, they have to make every decision in isolation and isolate their team from that decision. So there's no consultation, there's no feedback, there's no two-way feedback. And it becomes very much then a labor of love for them in terms of making every decision. And because people then get switched off and they're not engaged, it makes it even harder to actually implement those decisions. So I think part of that learning process, that personal development process for a business owner, is to consult with the people who they work with on a more regular basis and actually seek out feedback so they can identify the areas that maybe they could improve on. Because otherwise it's a bit of a scattergun, isn't it? You know, I'll do this course, I'll do that course, or buy this book, buy that book. It's not necessarily just about a one-dimensional process. And if you can get that feedback, it's the amount of times when you've got a team, say, of 6 or 7 people working for you, and one person within that team's got the answer. But if you don't ask them, they'll never actually volunteer it because they don't feel it's their place to do so. So it's about setting up an environment where people feel free to give feedback and can be asked for feedback. It's it's a complex area, but it's a simple solution, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
I mean, I think it's quite scary if businesses aren't doing some form of personal development or business development, whatever it is, because I think certainly when you start off in business, you're very much operating in the domain of you don't know what you don't know. You know, all these different elements that you never had to deal with in corporate are now suddenly landed on your lap because you wear every hat inside of your business. So I think if you're not taking advice, or you're not getting support, or you're not learning as you go, I think it gives you a competitive disadvantage over your competitors that will be doing that. And I think, as sort of Russell's touched on, if we think that not improving our business moves us backwards, then not improving ourselves also moves us backwards. So that's a very valid point. So I think there is a danger, as you touched on earlier, Mark. I think there is an element of ego that sometimes gets in the way with some small business owners, that they think they can do it all by themselves and fight the good fight without any external support, whatever that looks like. And I think that's quite sad and lonely in one way, isn't it?
Do you feel, I think ego is one of them, but also I'm picking up on that point. Some business owners feel that they have to, because if they admit that they don't know stuff, people are going to not think they're successful, think bad of them. Because I've had those conversations with people as well. They think that running a business, you have to know everything. Any sort of signs where you don't is a sign of weakness. You can't be successful. And for me, I think it's a sad state of affairs if people are made to feel like that by sort of the world around them.
It really is. I think that's a great point. And I think it's a real show of confidence when you feel perfectly confident to say, I don't know. What are the answers and what's wrong with that? Why would anyone need to know everything about everything? But I think it can be a really lonely place, which is why I so appreciate my networking, being part of BizCom and a couple of other groups. I really value that. I love the networking. I love meeting other business owners, because it's whatever you make it. It can be a really lonely place, as Paul was mentioning as well, but it doesn't have to be. It can be this wonderful place full of support and interaction. It's totally what you make of it.
The strongest clients that I work with are the ones where people are allowed to make mistakes, and then from those mistakes there's a learning point and people are supported to improve or to do the right thing on the next occasion. And I think that's quite an important point, because some of those business owners who don't want to do the personal development, don't want to admit they don't know things, that is a blocker for their people who work for them as well. Because nobody's moving forward. Everyone's just effectively defending their own position. And it does get into that whole blame culture scenario where people are looking to deflect everything to somebody else. And it's quite toxic. So an open and transparent business where people are allowed to make mistakes and then they become a development opportunity and for people to improve will be a much higher performing organization than one where mistakes are not tolerated and people are fearful about their jobs and everyone's trying to hide behind things and deflect blame. It's it's unfortunately something that I do come across, but less so perhaps in some smaller companies than in corporates, because those sort of corporate environments also stifle decision making. So if you can't make a decision, you can't get it wrong, and you can't be fired for it.
Yeah.
So you end up with a stagnation, almost like inertia just takes over a business, and it never seems to move forward because everyone's frightened, which is quite horrendous, really. When you think about it in isolation now, as working with smaller businesses, maybe running a small business, you think, why would anyone be like that? But clearly they still are.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing with that as well, if a small business owner doesn't believe or doesn't get himself involved in his own development, then he's less likely to consider it for his staff.
Yeah.
So it has a double whammy, I guess, to some extent at the end of the day. So something popped into me and straight back out again. So in terms, so for me, as has been touched on, I think there's a lot of resources out there that doesn't have to cost money. Obviously, it is going to cost you in terms of your time, because whether you're reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching a video, whatever it might be, or being in a workshop, you've obviously got to invest that time. But I think that is worth your investment. I think that the starting place is to try and identify what the areas are that you don't know, and the areas that you do need that development in, and then look and sort of see what resources are out there.
Agreed.
So, any other points on this topic before we wrap this up?
Not for me. I think it's a resounding big fat yes, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't think you have to do everything by yourself. Be open to learning and new opportunities.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Mark?
No, I agree with everything that we've said.
Yes,
it is very much about the power is in your own hands, and as a business owner, you should be seeking every opportunity to learn, because that's what is going to make you successful. You can be as good as anyone doing the actual discipline that you're selling, but if you can't do the other stuff, the business stuff, you will ultimately fail, or you will struggle at the very least.
Yeah. For me, it's surrounding yourself with the people that are going to support you going forward. So you guys, I can learn off you every day, and I think that's important. And I can't remember what the saying is. I'll cock it up, and I should have looked it up prior. But it's sort of always be the least intelligent person in the room. So then you've got the ability, to learn off of other people, and don't have that ego getting in the way, thinking more, or you're better than people that you are with. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck, in my view. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, so thank you for your time today, guys. I appreciate that. For those of you watching this, we're here every week at 11 a.m. Next time, we're going to be looking at finance aspect of small businesses, and we're going to be discussing, do you think small business owners raise funds and or invest in an efficient way? Or an effective way. So that's what we'll be doing next time. So we'll end the broadcast there. Thank you very much, experts.
Thank you.
Thank you.